pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Let the record show that all members of the City Council are present this evening, with the exception of Councilman Catlin. First item on the agenda, I beg your pardon. A copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in the meeting room and is accessible to members of the public at any time during the course of this meeting. First item is the consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests. First item is item A, approve agenda as submitted. Item B, receive and place on file all notices pertaining to this meeting. Item C, receive and place on file all materials having any bearing on this meeting. Item D, approval of minutes of a special meeting on December 17th, 2018, as on file in the City Clerk's office. Item E, approval of Treasurer's report of claims in the amount of $670,515.48. Item F, approval of Boswell report of claims in the amount of $50,476.97. Item G, resolution number 6336, amending Exhibit B of the wholesale power contract between the City of Beatrice and Nebraska Public Power for the purchase of transmission of electrical power for the city as recommended by the Board of Public Works. Item H, resolution number 6337, executing the certificate of compliance to the Nebraska Department of Transportation regarding all roadway snow removal and/or surface maintenance as recommended by the Board of Public Works. Item I, resolution number 6338, regulating the parking lots located at the Beatrice Public Library. Item J, resolution number 6339, appointing Mike Honey to the Beatrice Planning and Zoning Commission. Item K, resolution number 6340, appointing Rodney Aiden to the Beatrice Planning and Zoning Commission. Item L, resolution number 6341, entering into a lease agreement with Larry Delabar for pasture purposes on property located adjacent to the C&D landfill. And item M, resolution number 6342, declaring the city approves the vacation of a portion of Juniper Road by the Gage County Board of Supervisors. Is there any item any member wants removed from the consent agenda? From the audience, Mr. Claybaugh?
Mayor, I move that the items listed under the consent agenda be approved, accepted, and/or ratified as presented.
Second.
Moved by Claybaugh, seconded by Morgan, that all items under the consent agenda be approved. Your vote, please. That is approved 7-0. We have no public hearings, resolutions, or next is ordinances. Introduce an ordinance to vacate a portion of Lot 2, North Commerce Addition, to the City of Beatrice.
Mayor, I move that the said ordinance be given number 19-001, the title thereof be approved and rules be suspended, and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight.
Second.
Moved by Claybaugh, seconded by Billsbach, that the ordinance be given number 19-001, the title thereof approved, the rules suspended, and the ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight. A motion to suspend the rules is not debatable. Your vote, please. That is approved 7-0. Ordinance number 19-001 by number the first time. Ordinance number 19-001 by number the second time. And ordinance number 19-001 by number the third and final time.
Mayor, I move that ordinance number 19-001 be passed and approved.
Second.
Moved by Claybaugh, seconded by Kerr, that ordinance number 19-001 be passed and approved. Discussion?
This is the first step in a 2-step process tonight. This is vacating a portion of a plat that is around Holiday Inn Express. So it's the plat that goes just north of Holiday Inn Express between them and Farm Credit Services. It wraps back on the west side of the property down to the south to Commerce Street. So you're vacating that first. Next, you'll be asked to approve the My Place Addition plat. As we talked about in previous council meetings, this is where the location of the new motel would be located in Beatrice. It would be on that new plat between Holiday Inn Express and Farm Credit Services to the north.
Questions, anyone? All right, from the audience? Your vote, please. And that is approved 7-0. Ordinance number 19-001 has been passed and approved. Corresponding ordinance approving the plat of My Place addition to the city of Beatrice.
Mayor, I move that said ordinance be given number 19-002. The title thereof be approved, the rules be suspended, and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight.
Second.
Moved by Claybaugh, seconded by Morgan, that the ordinance be given number 19-002, the title thereof approved, the rules suspended, and the ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight. A motion to suspend the rules is not debatable. Your vote, please. That is approved 7-0. Ordinance number 19-002 by number the first time. Ordinance number 19-002 by number the second time. And ordinance number 19-002 by number the third and final time.
Mayor, I move that ordinance number 19-002 be passed and approved.
Moved by Claybaugh, seconded by Cook, that ordinance number 19-002 be passed and approved. Anything further, Tobias?
The other thing is planning and zoning did hear this matter tonight, and they did recommend approval.
Stan,
Yes, sir.
not that it makes a difference on the plat, but, and I know we discussed it, well, almost a year ago about this actually being built, but are they giving you any indication of the time frame, construction, how long it'll take, when they start, when they end, the doors open, keys in hand?
Not that I've necessarily heard any particular start dates or those types of things. Just based upon how paperwork is moving again, my guess is they're looking for a spring construction start, because TIF is starting to move again as well, some of those things. So
I just wondered if they'd reached out and they'd given you an indication, or if they'd applied for a building permit.
nope.
Okay. That would have been a
They're
real
also
good
gonna-
indication of when.
Also going to
So,
apply
thank
for
you.
tax increment financing.
Yes. So
Yeah.
So there's a
Yeah.
process there too.
Right.
All right, any further discussion from the audience? Your vote, please. And that is approved 7-0. Ordinance number 19-002 has been passed and approved. Next is an ordinance closing and vacating a portion of Stockman Street and a portion of 7th Street.
Mayor, I move that said ordinance be given number 19-003. The title thereof be approved, the rules be suspended, and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight.
Second.
Moved by Claybaugh, seconded by Billsbach, that the ordinance be given number 19-003, the title thereof approved, the rules suspended, and the ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight. A motion to suspend the rules is not debatable. Your vote, please. That is approved 7-0. Ordinance number 19-003 by number the first time. Ordinance number 19-003 by number the second time. And ordinance number 19-003 by number the third and final time.
Mayor, I move that ordinance number 19-003 be passed and approved.
Second.
Moved by Claybaugh, seconded by Cook, that ordinance number 19-003 be passed and approved. Discussion?
Some time ago, you ended up with 2 Stockman Streets. Stockman Street is up around the sale barn. It's on the east side of the highway. What happened was you had original Stockman Street, and then the state came in and wanted it to line up with the intersection on across the street going into the airport. And so Stockman Street moved north just a little bit. You end up with 2 Stockman Streets. We never have vacated it. It's just kind of been this extra parcel of city land that's been sitting there. During this process, while they're looking to replat this area, we figured it was a good time to get this little issue cleaned up and taken care of and off our books. So,
Questions? Anyone, gentlemen? All right, your vote, please. And that is approved 7-0. Ordinance number 19-003 has been passed and approved. Next is an ordinance approving the plat of Tri-77 acres addition to the city of Beatrice.
Mayor, I move that said ordinance be given number 19-004. The title thereof be approved and rules be suspended, and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight.
Second.
Moved by Claybaugh, seconded by Morgan, that the ordinance be given number 19-004, the title thereof approved, the rules suspended, and the ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight. Motion to suspend the rules is not debatable. Your vote, please. And that is approved 7-0. Ordinance number 19-004 by number the first time, and ordinance number 19-004 by number the second time, and ordinance number 19-004 by number the third and final time.
Mayor, I move that ordinance number 19-004 be passed and approved.
Second.
Moved by Claybaugh, seconded by Morgan, that ordinance number 19-004 be passed and approved. Discussion.
This would be a plat of the sale barn, for those following along at home. It also includes the Fastenal building and Stockman Street that's in there we just discussed. So we're recommending approval of those tonight. I think Planning and Zoning also heard this matter and they recommended approval as well.
Questions, gentlemen? Anyone from the audience? All right, your vote, please. And that's approved 7-0. Ordinance number 19-004 has been passed and approved. Next is an ordinance conveying a portion of Stockman Street and a portion of 7th Street to Tri-Corp, Inc.
Mayor, I move that said ordinance be given number 19-005. The title thereof be approved and rules be suspended and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight.
Moved by Claybaugh, seconded by Cook, that the ordinance be given number 19-005, the title thereof approved, the rules suspended, and the ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight. A motion to suspend the rules is not debatable. Your vote, please. That is approved 7-0. Ordinance number 19-005 by number the first time, ordinance number 19-005 by number the second time, and ordinance number 19-005 by number the third and final time.
Mayor, I move that ordinance number 19-005 be passed and approved.
Moved by Claybaugh, seconded by Cook, that ordinance number 19-005 be passed and approved. Tobias?
This ordinance simply transfers that portion of the street that we just discussed and you just vacated to Tri-77, and it makes it part of their plat as well, so they'll have retain ownership of it.
Did we get paid anything for it, or?
What we got paid was their agreement to actually plat this parcel up there and do some of the things on the plat that we wanted done to clean up the area. But no dollars traded hands, no.
They'll keep it maintained, though.
Yeah, it'll be their property and be used as it has been for years.
Any other questions from the audience? All right, your vote, please. And that is approved 7-0. Ordinance number 19-005 has been passed and adopted. Next item is a public forum. Purpose of the public forum is for the presentation of an item by the general public to the City Council for consideration at a later date. No discussion or action will be taken by the City Council at this time. Does the council have anything for the public forum? The audience? All right. Next is the quarterly report from Engage, and Walker Zolkowski, Executive Director, is with us this evening. Walker, the floor is yours.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Just skip to the final page and talk about my this summary. If anybody had any questions before I jump into that, that's all right. So I just covered travel. We were where we were the last quarter. I guess let me just overarchingly, the end of the year, holidays is a little bit slower for economic development. So we're still traveling and still hitting trade shows, but project activity is a little bit slower and gives us a chance to just catch up on office stuff, planning, strategy, all that kind of stuff. So, but I mean, we're still on the road quite a bit. I was in Dallas. We were at the Malco Tools opening, Governor's Pheasant Hunt. We had a really good team for that. Governor hunted with us this year and spent quite a bit of time down here. Still pretty active in Blueprint, Nebraska. There was a summit out in Kearney. One of the takeaways on that is that I'm on what's called the Mega Sites committee with the Blueprint, Nebraska. And after some discussions, we actually changed that committee to be a sites development committee. So instead of focusing all of our efforts on the state of developing one large mega site, which would have ended up somewhere like Lincoln or Omaha, now we're looking at developing multiple industrial sites around the state based on the needs and the strengths and weaknesses of each economy. So that helps out a lot of rural areas and helps out the state in a little bit better way than just one giant site that hopefully doesn't suction all the time and resources and and people to one area. So, State Chamber, we were at the Economic Development Summit, also at the Manufacturing Summit, and then we watched pretty closely the Lancaster County wind hearings, with the development that's going on in the north part of the county and the south part of Lancaster County. Spent some time at those hearings too, making sure that we knew what was going on, because we'll be working pretty closely with that project. And then we had our regional Mid-America Economic Development Council is the regional meeting, which was like pretty much all the Midwest states get together for networking, site consultant visits, and stuff. And Aaron was there, attended that in Chicago. Just, I guess, other movers. So the state has won the Site Selection Magazine most projects per capita for a state 2 years in a row. And that's going around again. So we submitted some projects for that. We were on the list. Beatrice was on the list last year for having 2 projects. And so we were going through all the projects that qualified for 2018, and we had 4 in Gage County that qualified. So most of these projects on that list that have won this Governor's Cup for the state have been, Lincoln and Omaha. So for 4 projects from Gage County is pretty good. So X-Marks expansion, Treads Central, which is that building that went up on the south side of Cortland, qualified. E-Energy Adams was doing some expansion, and then also Landmark Snacks had some pretty significant growth with employees this year. So all of those things help contribute to hopefully winning that award for the 3rd year in a row. So a part of those, Xmark is cranking away on their building expansion. We'd helped negotiate early on some funding for them through the Department of Economic Development, and that was eventually came through just in the last month. NEAPCO had applied for some Nebraska Advantage benefits and was struggling with the Department of Revenue, so they'd asked us to help jump in and get some of those things realized so that they could get it passed on their 2018 books. And after some discussions back and forth, we got that taken care of. So it's just been kind of buttoning some things up. I guess this second quarter, I keep wanting to say fourth quarter, but it's the second quarter in our new fiscal year. So. And then just planning for the Connecting Entrepreneurs Communities Conference will be coming up here in April. We won that bid to host it in Beatrice, and right now they're fundraising to secure all of the funding to get the speakers, host receptions, have the event space. Things like are going pretty well on that. And then planning for next year, we keep following up from our board retreat. Our board identified 5 key things we're going to focus on next year. The main things being, recruitment of industry, working on connectivity for the county, making sure that we have access to high-speed, quick, efficient internet, and then also skilled workforce development. So, and then positive marketing and focusing quality of life. So those will be the 5 things we're working on for not only 2019 but over the next 3 years. So we'll have more information come out on that soon. We'll have some action items come out of our January board meeting with that. So I guess looking forward, what we spent, I guess, the last few months doing was planning for early 2019 first quarter. I got invited to a Select USA event, which would be in Italy in, I think, March of this year. One of our top priorities is going to be going after food processing, and Select USA is hosting an event in Italy, meeting with food processors that are looking at expanding in the United States. And so the DED reached out to us and asked if we wanted to go. So we'll be going on that. And then also we have some funding left over from the Canada recruitment trip that we did in the 3rd quarter of this year, I guess the 1st quarter of this fiscal year. And so we're looking at expending the rest of those funds here in either Q1 or Q2. We're planning another trip up to Canada. So we'll be on the road quite a bit in Q1. One thing that's not on there, but make sure you mark on our calendars for February 19th will be our annual meeting. So a meeting of all of the investors, and then we'll have 3 board members that are up for election this year. 2 from the city slots and 1 from the county. And so I guess if you guys have any recommendations or want to put forth any nominations or get that out in front of anybody, that there will be 3 spots up for election. I do know that one of the board members, Andrea Schaefer, has said that she's wanted to stay on, but she's so far the only one that said she's wanted to continue. So we will be looking for some nominations for our board. Any questions?
Questions? The Nebraska legislature is just starting to gear up for a 90-day session. What legislation or what proposals do you see forthcoming this year that is going to affect economic development and, more importantly, economic development in Gage County?
The things that we've looked at the most, our legislative calls are just, now we're consistent. We meet every Friday plus anything else as needed. But the incentives bill with Nebraska Advantage was set to sunset. That's the state's overall tax incentive. Was going to sunset in 2020. I can't think of a small group of senators had decided to sunset that in 2019. So industry incentives will be extremely important this year. We'll be addressing those. There is a draft bill in place to replace Nebraska Advantage. So we'll be tracking that. I think with what Senator Dorn, I guess Senator-elect Dorn will have with the sales tax bill, we'll want to watch that pretty closely with how that affects Gage County. And over the last couple of years, there's been some changes with the development districts. So there's Nebraska has economic development districts. We're part of SEND, Southeast Nebraska Economic Development District. I'm on their board. There's been a couple counties that have wanted to change the boundaries of those development districts, and so it didn't advance last year, but this year we think there's going to be some more of that coming back. So we'll make sure we stay up to speed on any of those developments. If one development change, one district changes, that could start to throw some other ones into a tailspin, and all their funding is based on a variety of federal formulas and stuff. So.
Is any groups coming in for our tax increment funding?
TIF, honestly, I haven't heard much on TIF this year. It was crazy last
We've
year.
been going after it for the last couple of years.
I haven't heard much from the league either about TIF this year. So
It's been
Good.
quiet, thankfully. I don't know, Tobias, am I missing anything? Those are the majors. Incentives will be a big one this year.
Okay. Any other questions?
I was just curious, when you go on some of these trips to Canada, Italy, wherever, does Engage pay for all of your trip, or is that some of it come out of the state?
It depends on the trip. Canada was a partnership between us and Lincoln, and Lincoln we just kind of made a little bit of a barter. Instead of them sending multiple staff, I went and it kind of exchanged, so then it cost them less money for me to go. So we ended up getting a pretty good deal on that. Select USA, which will be in Italy, we'll split the cost between another community that ends up going, but we only get that invite from the state. We don't actually get the invite. The state gets it, and then they can invite 2 communities to come along with them. It just depends. Sometimes with the LAD group, this probably isn't so much international, but with the LAD group, we pay a membership fee to be part of our regional group. And as part of that, sometimes we'll have kickbacks. If somebody wants to go to a conference, they'll give us a stipend to cover the cost of it. So it's really case by case.
Kickback's probably not the right term, Walter.
What?
Kickback's probably not the right term.
Well, yeah, that's true.
The papers.
They'll reimburse us for some of the costs.
There you go.
There we go.
Any other questions? All right, Walker, thank you very much.
Go Clemson.
All right, as part of, I guess for lack of a better term, an education process for all of us, the building inspections, no, wait a minute. There's a game on tonight. The Building Inspections Department is here with us tonight. Rob Morrow, our Chief Building Inspector, along with Chet McGurry, our code enforcement officer, if we need to visit with him also. But it gives us an opportunity to maybe find out what their departments are doing and just kind of update some of us that need some additional information, and especially Mike McLean, who's brand new on the city council. I think it's very noteworthy that we're starting this process, and we're going to continue it from building inspection through all the departments. So, Rob?
I got to be to work in 2 hours and 45 minutes, so let's.
Rob Merrill, Chief Building Inspector. Welcome, Mike. Figure we just start reading these one at a time. No, somehow I drew the short straw and had to go first with, 3 days to prepare, I suppose. So this is, I guess, winging it for the most part, but I made a little bit of some notes of some things I wanted to touch on. And, some of it maybe is important to understand maybe where this department has been and kind of where it's going, where it is now and where it's hopefully going. The history of it, since I've been in Beatrice, I've been here about 17 years now, and I was the 7th building inspector in 12 years when I got hired. I've been here a little over 4 years now, so that's some type of record, I suppose, and should qualify for early retirement or something. But when I interviewed with Tobias and a couple of the council members and former Mayor Schuster, some of the things that I talked about just from what I had seen from afar was that this department really needs stabilized, needed organized, and needed to bridge some gaps between all departments and kind of have better communication with all the departments throughout the city, and then also kind of bring it into the 21st century. We were still doing things with pen and pencil, for that matter, when I arrived. We've cleaned some of those things up. When I first went in there, I looked at maybe some of the reasons for the turnover in that department, and kind of the things I came up with was that it was kind of a daunting task of all the cleanup of things that needed to be done. The workload probably is higher compared to most cities and this position in most cities. And then the idea of maybe previous inspectors and that not wanting to maybe do the enforcement side of thing, or knowing what the volume of enforcement was going to be when they took the job. Maybe I didn't know it either, but I guess I'm stupid enough to still be here, or you're stupid enough to have not gotten rid of me, one of the two. There was some bad culture too, just in general, that is kind of a free-for-all in a way. I think that contractors had been burned out with a revolving door of inspectors and not having some consistency there. So that's one thing that I think we've brought. A lot of confusion in our office in general, and just then the overall lack of knowledge, I think, from this position in terms of understanding the codes and applying them, and then kind of having the common sense to work with people during those processes. We were running about 500 building permits, 500 to 600 maybe. When I say building permits, I'm throwing everything in there: building, plumbing, mechanical, enforcement permits. We were running about 500 prior to my arrival, and maybe even up to the last, maybe like 2 years ago, as we were kind of transitioning to get things better. Having said that, with the history side of things, there's really 3 areas of our department that we administer. And probably our department should be more of a call to community development rather than a building inspections. Our three sides of our triangle are the building inspection side or the building code side, the planning and zoning, and then the code enforcement. We have 3 employees that are pretty well tasked with those 3. Myself, being the chief building inspector, we have Chet, who's the code enforcement or code compliance officer, and then we have Laura Raber, who's our administrative assistant. What I have done is kind of try to delegate those, each phase to somebody for the most part. Chet pretty much does all of the code enforcement stuff, and as we all know, he does a great job. Laura, I have given more, latitude to do a lot of the planning and zoning stuff, so that because a lot of the projects and development starts there. And so she's kind of our first point of contact with those things. And she has kind of a difficult job a lot of days because, maybe in the old days, everything was yes, 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 without maybe looking up to see what the rules were. she's done a great job of learning what the rules are and giving the appropriate answer. And if she doesn't know the appropriate answer, she waits till I can make that decision. And of course, at the end of the day, all the decisions fall on my shoulders one way or the other. So with that, on the building inspection side, these are the building codes you guys have adopted right here. I mean, we're talking about 4,000 pages of some really intense reading, man. It's good times. You guys should take a minute or 1,000 of your day and read some of this. But it's been a little bit of a challenge on the building side, that I've got a lot of education from the contractors, and I feel like I've given them a lot of education on these codes, and it's been a pretty good give and take relationship. I think we have a great relationship with the majority of the contractors in town at this point. Right now, in 2018, we ran a little over 1,100 permits, up almost 100% from where we were in the years past. Some of those are what we call inquiries of permits or zoning verifications and those type of things. But keeping track of all of them together, we're at about 1,100, and some of that, a lot of it has to do with just enforcing what we have and kind of leveling the playing field in general with all the contractors. So we're all playing by the same rules, because for a lot of years, guys maybe weren't getting permits for things they should have been, and other guys were complaining. Now, I don't know that I've had a complaint over the last year and a half, but when I first started, it was constant. Contractor complaining about another contractor, and I feel like the playing field has leveled for all those guys. We were doing about 20, 25 inspections per month. When I first arrived, we're doing about 75 to 125 now. I do 98, 99% of those. I try not to use Chet to do too many of those, just because he's busy with code enforcement. I have obtained 15 ICC certifications, which basically means that I understand the concepts that are in this book. I understand the concepts of the construction, and I know how to apply those both in the field and in the office with these code books. Laura has obtained a couple certifications as well for permit tech and zoning. Again, it's important for her because we need to use all of our resources as we can from a time standpoint, so that she can answer some questions when people walk into the office or make that phone call to ask a few questions. That's kind of the building side in a nutshell. When we get plans in for the college, I was going to bring their plan and bring a couple plans, but I didn't have enough hands, and this is plenty. But the residential dorm that's being built at the college right now, I don't know, maybe 70 pages rolled up. It's about this big. When that comes in, we have to do a plan review, and we apply the codes as they fit in each one of these books in terms of mechanical, accessibility, plumbing, and the building side. When we get a house, it can be about 5 pages, but we still apply them through the International Residential Code, which is for single and 1 and 2 family dwellings. It takes some time, especially when you have a large project, to run through these and weigh the plans with the codes. We do have, basically, for lack of a better term, a checklist that ICC produces, and we can basically go down it in a very organized manner and hopefully catch any deficiencies that the engineers or architects may have made. But it takes time. I mean, this could. We tell people a lot of times 2 to 4 weeks on commercial projects, because a lot of days I don't get a chance to just sit down and review those, because we're doing a lot of other things, being pulled a lot of different directions. But that's kind of that. The planning and zoning side, as many of you know, I mean, we administer that zoning ordinance, the land uses, subdivisions, all of those things. Like I said, I've given Laura a lot of latitude to learn as much as she can, handle a lot of that as she can, and just basically try to educate people as much as they can, as much as she can, as much as I can. And overall, we trying to get people to do what they want to do within our rules. So that's kind of one of our main goals with planning and zoning. But it's funny, because as you go down these books here, these cause us the least problems for some reason, but it's the most book. This one caused a little more problems. This one seems to cause us a lot, which we'll get to here in a second. But it's it's difficult for people to accept no on the zoning side a lot of times because we're telling them what they can and cannot do on their land and what use they can and cannot do. So we run into that quite a bit. This here, the IPMC International Property Maintenance Code, is the one that cleans up a lot of the trash in the city for the most part. Cleans properties. With that, of course, all the codes and ordinances we've adopted over the years. Your dilapidated junk vehicles, and that. But again, that's the one we get the most complaints on. Having said that, Chet's done a great job of staying on top of the stuff going on in the city to clean properties up. We have had very little complaints from citizens recently because he's stayed on top of it. He's had over, in 2017, he had over 1,100 cases that he worked. He was over 1,200 this last year in 2018. So he's doing a great job. Our problem is that sometimes that we have, our projects take a long time. If we serve an inspection warrant or get a big case that we need to spend more time on, it can take us 2 weeks, and he may only get 20 or 30 self-initiated code violations taken care of because it does take so much time. And while I don't think we need another guy or anything like that at this point. It's just one of those things that we have to prioritize them as they come in. Maybe not always, everybody doesn't agree with the same priority, but we have to find the best way to use our time and get those things taken care of. And it can be challenging. We've done pretty well with tying our goals into the strategic plan. I think we've accomplished most of those. Having said that, the rental inspector program is in there, something that I know Tobias has tried to start that process maybe in the past, and probably was met with a lot of resistance from landlords and property owners in that. But ultimately, I suppose that's up to you guys if we ever decide to do something like that. Having said that, if we ever do a rental program like Tobias and I discussed, it would probably take another inspector or code and compliance officer to do that.
Kevlar.
With Kevlar, probably. So, because now everybody's going to be, aiming for it. So, overall, I feel like we've had some pretty good achievements over the last few years, and basically just by enforcing what we have on the books, when we create new laws and things like that, it kind of bogs us down a little bit because we have to go out and maybe create new letters and forms, and with our iWork system, that can sometimes, it's not a challenge, it just takes time. And but it makes us more efficient in the long run, and that's kind of one of my things. I have to work efficiently just because that's the way I am. We've definitely improved our efficiency in the office. We've reduced our paper use in there as well with the system we have. We've improved our documentation and records keeping in there with our system. Before, you used to go in there and somebody would have a conversation with whoever's working the desk and, hey, can I do A, B, and C? Well, they don't do A, B, and C in the next 2 months or even 3 months. They'll come in 8 months down the road and say, well, so-and-so said I could do A, B, and C here. This is what I want to do. Well, a lot may have changed over those 8 months. And so what we do is we document pretty much every time somebody comes in and inquires about what they can and cannot do. We put it in the file with the address, and we know what the answer is the next time they come in. Well, here's what we told you 8 months ago that you could do. That's saved us a lot of headache over time. And I guess with that, one of the things that, from your guys' standpoint, I think you can definitely help us do as well is our goal is to try to help people do things within the rules that are in place. And the worst thing we can do is to tell somebody they can do something because they're somebody's buddy or whatever the case may be, or, oh, so-and-so got to do it 10 years ago, or whatever the case may be. I would just suggest that, you know what, if these are the rules in place, let's stick to those rules. If we want to change the rules, let's look at changing the rules. Because the worst thing that happens is that somebody comes in, well, you let so-and-so do it, and then 2 weeks later somebody else comes in and says, well, you let now why can't I do it? Well, then we got to tell them no, and then this line just never stops. And so I just would say that if anybody has a question about building codes or planning and zoning, can we do this? Can we not do this? Send them to us. We'll answer the question. They may get no. They may get yes. The one thing I can assure you is that we're trying to help them do what they want to do within the rules that we have in place. Our job, one of the things I've told contractors from the beginning is that, we're just part of the team in this building process and the development process. It's not a dictatorship. It's education on both ends. And again, we just want to be part of the team and not part of the problem when it comes down to it. There's a lot of a lot of cities that, maybe building inspectors want to have more of a dictatorship. I said you got to do it because I said so, and I guess I don't really operate that way. So it's pretty well black and white in most of these books. Obviously, there's some interpretation from time to time, but we'll deal with that. Future plans. We have a comprehensive plan for the city that was written in 2001, Tobias, and updated in 2006. We apply a lot of planning and zoning things through there. It's pretty outdated. I would say that's something we should probably look at doing sooner rather than later. Again, I touched on the strategic plan a little bit. I think, if we ever decided to do that rental inspection program, we better start looking at another code compliance officer with or without Kevlar. One thing we're currently doing is reviewing permit fees to make sure those are maybe in line and not only fair to the city, but fair to the citizens, whether it's too much or not enough one way or the other. And then maybe one thing that I would maybe like to see is just changing the name of our department from building inspections to community development department. It just seems to have more, positivity, I guess, in a way. Because we do way more than just building inspections. I mean, everything we do is based on improving the community and making it better. Having said that, just for the fun, I have some photos. Just thought I'd share with you guys that most of them. Well, Chet and I both go on them, but Chet does the majority of them.
So you would be the executive community improvement officer?
You can call me whatever you want. So if you give me a better title, you give me more money, right?
Absolutely not.
No, we just go through some of these. This is just some of the maybe the recent inspection warrant we're doing around town. We got a couple more that we're lining up to do, and these are just some of the things we see. And this one here, we ordered this part of the building to be demolished, and we're working with that. He's filed for an appeal, and we're going to work on that and see what direction that goes. But if we went and condemned a lot of the buildings and properties that maybe needed right now, we would probably be looking at millions and millions of dollars to repair, replace, tear down, whatever the case may be. So we're working through these kind of strategically and as efficiently as possible.
Only leaks when it rains.
You're correct. Otherwise, it's not, right?
Yep.
That's same building, right, Chet? 715 Bell. Oh yeah, this was the garage. So this one we demoed. This thing was sitting there for I'd say years, not even months, but years.
We now own it.
We have demoed we've started the process. We can't take credit because owners have paid for a lot of the demos. We've demoed around 80 or started the process to demo 80. Just having conversations with people. Hey, we're going to do it if you're not going to do it. And it's went pretty well. I mean, we've had to use some of our own city money, but we've also got other people kind of motivated to get some of their things taken care of as well. And that's 80 over the last 3 years. This is still 715 Bell. This was recent where we had a guy living in his camper in the driveway running his sewer water right into the yard. So just some of the things we had to deal with. Another one, this house was demoed, I believe last year. It started with this deck and worked its way. We worked our way inside and it no longer stands.
Ella?
Street's correct. So, and there it is, condemned. This one is condemned recently, and I guess I'm not a mold expert. It's black, appears to be mold, black mold. I don't know. So This one's condemned and is gonna be scheduled for demo shortly, so.
Someone living in that house?
No one is living in this house. No one has lived in that house for 8 years, if I'm not mistaken, based on the mail we had seen in there. And it's just been sitting empty for at least 8 years. Still food in the fridge. So this is the look of
Move-in ready.
Huh?
Call it move-in ready.
Yeah, move-in ready. So this was a JMV. This was the first one we used our JB, I should say now, that we towed. With the new ordinance we have in place, we have rewritten some of our policies and are kind of working out the kinks on some of those, and we're trying to move forward a little bit on some of those that we see regularly. In fact, we just sent one out to one of the more popular JV yards here up on 7th and Garfield area. So hopefully that will move quick. But this same property was this during the last summer.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've tried working with her before many
And
times.
this is what it looks like today, or close to today, yesterday. So obviously it makes a difference.
Jet?
So, this was a house that we initially condemned because of, this was just some of the cockroaches, but this was like this, almost every square foot of the house was this many cockroaches. It got reacquired by the previous owner, and he cleaned it up and did a pretty good job doing it, but
And then the floor.
it
Yeah.
was, the floor moved when you walked in there.
Yep.
So, some of the fine wiring we see with some of our unlicensed electricians, if you will. And we see this in many houses that we go into regularly.
Like that porch swing.
There's a porch swing.
I like that. Shows ingenuity.
Yep, for sure. Can't buy this at any hardware store, that's for sure.
Bring me a beer, Edith.
This one we turned over to the police department because it was on the street. So I know it's taken care of pretty quick. One of the trailers or mobile homes that we demoed out in, behind Risky's, I think we've done 4 or 5 of them up there in the last couple of years.
Can't be many left, is there?
There's not too many bad ones left, I can say that. So there's a couple more we got our eye on, but again, it's prioritization at this point. So this is some of the free work we do when people dump couches and organs and TVs into the Big Blue River. We have developed a good relationship with some guys in the community, and Lamo Plumbing helped us fish those out. And that was in the middle of winter, last year, if I'm not mistaken. So Chet, we had to buy Chet some waders, and he had to do some river walking. So it was either him or me. So this is, your typical plumbing and electrical situation. Open electrical boxes right by all your plumbing, always safe. Another one of our mobile homes that was recently demoed here this last year. They cut out, had asbestos in the glazing of the windows, so that's why the windows are cut out. And this is just a plumbing inspection, just some of the intricate plumbing. Is this at the college? That's at the college? The dining hall. Yep. So, just a lot of work goes into what those guys do as well to make it compliant. This is
Hopefully they get that poured tomorrow.
Yeah. So here's more junk we're still working with. Some of this still going through court, so that's.
Oh, that'd be down by South Ninth, wouldn't it?
Yep. Here's a fence that we had them, didn't get a permit for, that we had them tear down, that was housing an iguana, if I'm not mistaken. So
It was what?
we considered it a fence, and it certainly qualified based on definition, so we had them remove it.
And they considered it a pen.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
I got 3 phone calls on that one.
Yeah, we went back and forth a little bit, but more just dilapidated fencing and stuff we see every day that we try to, things that we, order to be demoed or repaired. Foundation wall that's crumbled in a basement. And actually, deadlines have passed on this one, so this one will be ordered demoed as well. This was on Bell Street, demoed a few years ago. these pizza boxes here are about 4 feet tall, and there's an entire mound of pizza boxes and chicken wings boxes in this house.
Like a drug bag from Clayball Pharmacy.
Hey, that's good publicity there.
4 days after I started,
Yeah.
and I stayed.
Yeah. And a lot of these bottles you see here, and you'll see them on the next picture, all these coffee mugs, a lot of those are filled with urine, if not all of them.
Howard Hughes.
And what's that?
Howard Hughes.
Yeah, it was not that exciting to be there. This was the chair. Here's the box, the mound of pizza boxes and wings, and this was the floor behind it. It was a pretty rough situation. This guy had some health problems, so you feel bad for him. But it's clearly an unsafe situation, very unsanitary for someone to live in.
Do you get tips from the public to find this stuff, or?
We get some tips. We work well with law enforcement that ends up in fire and rescue that maybe ends up to help some of these folks. We have developed other strategies to understand when they're not putting trash out, that trash has to be somewhere. So some of the houses we may suspect, we will watch a little bit closer and kind of work from there. So, and then sometimes a knock on the door to just see if we can have a look inside, and during that process that does happen. So
Growth of cobwebs there.
this is this picture here is taken from about 3 to 4 feet, standing on debris, trash, and everything else, and this entire house was this way. I actually went to walk around the kitchen, and I had to step down onto the kitchen table to go around him, and then step back up onto the pile to go to the next room. Every picture we took was pretty much looking down on top of your refrigerators and appliances, a grandfather clock, and those type of things. It was pretty rough.
It was. It's not anymore.
It's
gone now.
It's been demoed, and there was a lot of stuff in there. Same house, right, Chet?
Yeah, that's his bedroom.
Yeah. We take care of signs as well with our sign ordinance, try to keep those off our city property and right of ways, keep things clean. We get mentioned a lot on Facebook for that too. So, as usual, the grass is tall in this community, and this particular one's about 17 inches. Yeah, that's pretty much our lives, man. So it's a good time. You guys are all welcome to come out and go on inspection if you'd like. When we get the next one, pizza box or the pass.
Should have heard what you and Chet were being called over that iguana deal.
I've been called a lot of things in my life, so
And when I told him you guys were gonna tear it down, you should have heard what he
So-
called me.
So, Robert, first, a few things. I guess I, want to commend you. Obviously, I've been set here a long time, and I've heard the same complaints from, the contractors. And since you're getting less complaints, my assumption is that you're treating them all the same. And that was a lot of the problem with past building inspectors. We'd get some, personalities involved in it, and this guy wouldn't get this, but this guy'd get that. And so obviously you're treating them all with this, you're coating them all with the same brush, and so they're all being treated the same, so there's less complaints, because, they still might want to complain, but it's a little hard to complain if there's nothing that, no footing there, so.
firm, fair, and consistent.
Yeah, and that's what we preached, but it didn't ever, it kind of fell on deaf ears, and it's understandable. Some people are easy to work with than others. No different than you working with this group. There's some of us that are charming to work with, and others that are a little more difficult. So, so anyway, kudos for that. So so when you have somebody, going off Mike's question, so when you have somebody that calls in and makes a complaint, because I've called your office before. So what is your process to give them feedback, to follow up? If I call in and I say, this address would you go look at this address? How do you follow up with that person so they know that something's been done about their complaint?
Like the reporting party?
Yeah.
We generally don't. I mean, if they would ask us to call them back, I guess we wouldn't have a problem with that, but more times than not, we just tell them we'll go take a look at it and we'll enforce whatever codes we can and go forward from there.
Yeah.
Sometimes we can do things and sometimes we cannot.
Yeah, I mean, because I know there's some reoccurring. My question is, because there's some reoccurring properties, and I call Tobias about it. You know, a couple of them I drive past them on my way to and from work, and I'll go, you know, I know that they contact them, but they're dumping more stuff. As I'm driving to work, they're backed in here. They're dumping more stuff into the yard right now.
Right.
So, you know, and Tobias's response to me is generally, you know, it's in process. We're working on it. But I think that, so my question to you is what I'm posing is not necessarily a question, but I think you need to develop some way of following up with the people that make that complaint or reach out to us so they know that something gets done. So that would be a suggestion on my part. So moving on, how do you get to the point, and you've touched on it earlier when you were talking about it, how did you get to the point where you eliminate the not my job attitude? You know, Rich will chime in on this, I'm sure, but every guy in the electrical department, every guy in the water department, every guy in the police department, every guy in the sewer department, street department, they drive past this stuff every single day. So how do you get it to where, and they look at it and go, that's not my job to call building inspectors. How do you get them to stop that, or have you got them to stop that? Because there's an awful lot of city employees, and so, because I remember before, and talking to Tobias, when the last city attorney was, when I still delivered in town, the three people that called in the complaints was Tobias and Greg and me. You know, those were the three people that called in complaints about properties that needed work on. So you have all these sets of eyes. How do you get them to all work with you?
Well, you know, we've tried some. I mean, like some of the discussions I've had, like with Captain Lampkin. He and I met. It's been a better part of a year ago, and we discussed, you know, how maybe he wanted to know how they could help us, and vice versa. And some of it is that, you know, Chet does 1,200 cases a year. I mean, if he has, you know, 10, 20 other people looking for cases, we're going to duplicate a lot of those things.
Right.
And, you know, we're going to just kind of be spinning our wheels. So we kind of decided that maybe that wouldn't work best for us, because we figured once, and a lot of that was maybe when Chet started full time, and that once Chet got on top of things, he's out there enough to know exactly what's in every neighborhood and what's at every house. I mean, you just know that over the course of time. And I don't know that it's necessary from our standpoint for people to just keep calling in from every department to tell us that, hey, this house has trash. We know that house has trash, or we know that this doesn't look good, but we can't, there's no code that's going to allow us to fix that. So at this point, I feel like we're kind of doing, you know, as best we can in terms of
So it'd be
any
more of
work
a hindrance than a help.
Yeah, in a way, it would be more of a hindrance. You know, how to get people to do stuff, I don't know. We just do it. I mean, like Chet and I, we drive around through town. We see something in the street, we pick it up. You know, we throw it in the truck, we call it good. You know, I wish everybody would do that. We haul anywhere from, you know, 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 loads of stuff that we pick up in the street or in the city right away or city park. We'll help those things out. You know, Mark Peathod helps us out from time to time with whatever we need. You know, we help him out too when it comes, we get storms. Chet will go out there and clean things up for him. I'll go out and pitch in from time to time. So we do those things. You know, working with other city departments, I mean, I try not to, one of my goals in working with other people in general is to not create more work for other people or create an emergency for them with like electrical, and this is kind of off topic of what you're asking, but you know, with electrical and WPC and water and those guys, when we get plans in, I try to give those guys as much lead time as possible to come down, look at the plans, and see what they need to do for their side of things when it comes time for this building project. But you know, working with all the departments, you know, I think we've had a good relationship with them. But in order, you know, to try to get everybody to be looking at the same things, again, it'd be more of a hindrance that for them to be calling in, because electrical guy may see it, a water guy may see it, Chet may see it, I may see it, you may see it, well, now we got 10 people calling in, and I don't know where,
Yeah, no, and I get that,
Yeah.
but at some point, everybody has to work. Everybody has to be reading off the same page.
right,
So, I guess my, to add on to add on to my response to this thing is that at a certain point, you said you had a good working relationship with the ambulance department, the police department, because they'll give you stuff if they have an opportunity to be into the homes and things. But have you ever thought about giving them a list of, if you get into this address or this address or this address, can you give us feedback?
we do that.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had some of those conversations, it's not a list per se, it's more of as something comes up or somebody maybe calls and complains about something, hey, if you get a chance to get in there, let us know what it is. And it's not too often that, I've been doing that long enough that it's not too often that if we need to get in someplace, we can find a way to get in.
Yeah. So,
Legally.
yeah. The thing of it is, your department, and you said, development, community, and I've said it before, you can't legislate community pride, but the things that your department does probably has the most impact. People don't know that you've gone out and inspected someone's plumbing. Okay.
Yep.
We don't know that you've gone out and said, okay, your wiring's okay, or you've used the right shingles, but you definitely know when your neighbors aren't keeping their weeds mowed or they're piling garbage in their backyard. So, what I'm saying is your department's probably visually, the most important. Fire department is important, police department, we're all important, but
Aesthetically, yes.
aesthetically, and you maintain my property values, because what happens in any part of town, so.
And with that, building safety is a big thing. You talk about just the things you see,
Right.
it's the things you don't see as well.
I agree.
And that's why building codes are important and why we have them. I've heard stories of contractors in the past that have maybe framed up a house, and once the inspector comes out, they take out every other board.
Yeah, I've heard those stories too.
And I've probably seen enough evidence in a few houses that we've demoed that some of those things have happened. And so, again, it's things you see and things you don't see, which, both cause problems. So, and it's unfortunate that this stack of books, really doesn't get the publicity that this one does,
Rick, you had a question?
First of all, thanks for volunteering to be the first one. And you've done a really great job for just such a short notice, actually. So how do we go about in renaming the department then? Because I think that really does provide a more positive connotation for the community rather than building inspector.
Right.
So how do we go about doing something like that?
It'd just be an action by this board.
Change the letterhead. Call it
Yeah,
that.
Make a motion.
We'd have an ordinance, maybe, I'd have to look, see if an ordinance or resolution brought before this body, and you guys would vote on it. And you've done it in the past when you renamed, I think, the sewer department to WPC. Those are some of probably the ones that come to mind first. Fire's always been first, the police, but that's all it would take.
And what I've seen from a lot of other jurisdictions is that's what we do. That's the title of that department is community development. And I thought, that's
Much more positive.
much more positive. So,
Rich?
Just one thing on Ted, to add to Ted. As far as the councilman, as far as calling up Chet and Rob, anytime I've asked them to do anything, they have gotten back to me when I've, of course, being a councilman, I suppose. But if I ask them to do something, they get on it. I say, whenever you get time, they get on it. But they usually do call me back and say, hey, we got that taken care of, Rich, or there's nothing we can do about it, Rich. And I do appreciate that, guys. Then I can get back to my constituents and say, we went out and took a look at it, and here's what we're going to do. So I do appreciate that, guys. Thank you.
Rick?
Just for some clarification, whenever I do get a call from somebody, I usually email or call Tobias and pass it on that way. Is that the way you would rather have it?
It's fine with me.
yeah, it makes,
Have
it makes no
Can it go
difference.
through the channels then?
I don't want to talk to Tobias. I want to talk to Rob. I like Rob.
Well, yeah, I do too, but
Must not know me.
it kind of
So,
keeps the chain committee.
He's busy.
Bob?
Well, I just, appreciate your presentation and appreciate how much work I know we've laid on you out of the college, and it's going to continue.
I've been out there a lot lately.
But I think also the other thing that we have to keep in mind and thank him for is that, see those books on that table? Probably 2 years from now, they're going to completely change. Because when you look at the plumbing codes and the electrical codes, they're going to keep throwing stuff that changes and
ICC has a new book every 3 years. I think that what my plan would be, and that I think Greg and I maybe discussed, maybe Tobias and I did as well, is that probably every 6 years is when we would look at adopting a new set of code books. That seems to make the most sense. When we buy these books, we end up having to buy 2 sets, and it's a couple $1,000s. So, and not that much changes from 1 year or from 3 years to the next 3 years. So a lot of times it's maybe they reworded a few things here and there, and then move some stuff around. But all in all, not a lot. A lot doesn't change.
Okay, anybody else? Rob, Chet, thank you very much for what you do. Appreciate it.
Stay on them, Chet.
Anytime you guys want to read them, you're more than welcome to. Good read.
Appreciate that. All right, our next regular scheduled meeting is going to be on January 21st, and our work session will be on January 28th. Mr. Claybaugh?
Mayor, I move that the meeting be adjourned at 8:06.
second.
Moved by Claybaugh, seconded by Morgan, that we adjourn at 8:06 PM. Your vote, please. That is approved, 7-0. Thank you.